They laughed when you walked alone, but they won't be laughing when you arrive. A walking alone builds strength in a way that no crowd ever can. When you are surrounded by people, it's easy to borrow energy, opinions, and even direction from others. But when you walk alone, every decision becomes yours. Every step forward is chosen, not influenced. There's no one to lean on, no one to copy, and no one to blame. That pressure forces something powerful out of you: clarity. You begin to understand what you truly want, not what the world has suggested you should want. And in that clarity, you start to build a foundation that is solid, not borrowed. Strength begins the moment you realize that you can rely on yourself, even when no one else is there. Being alone strips away distractions and reveals your raw, unfiltered self. Without constant noise, you hear your own thoughts more clearly. At first, that silence can feel uncomfortable, even overwhelming. You start to face doubts, fears, and insecurities that were once buried under conversations and distractions. But that confrontation is necessary. Growth does not happen when everything feels easy and supported. It happens when you are forced to face yourself honestly. Walking alone gives you that opportunity. It pushes you to sit with your thoughts, question your habits, and rebuild your mindset from the ground up. Over time, what once felt like loneliness transforms into self-awareness, and that self-awareness becomes strength. There is also a discipline that is born in solitude. When no one is watching, there is no external pressure to perform. You either show up for yourself or you don't. There are no rewards, no applause, and no immediate recognition. This is where real discipline is tested, and developed. Walking alone means doing the work even when it feels pointless, even when no one notices, and even when progress seems slow. It's waking up early without being told, staying consistent without encouragement, and pushing forward without validation. That kind of discipline is rare, but it is also what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Strength grows every time you choose to keep going without needing anyone to cheer you on. Another powerful aspect of walking alone is the resilience it builds. When you are on your own path, setbacks hit differently. There's no one to immediately comfort you, no one to soften the impact. You have to process failure, disappointment, and frustration by yourself. At first, that can feel heavy, but with time, you learn how to carry that weight. You learn how to stand back up without assistance, how to adapt without guidance, and how to keep moving forward despite uncertainty. Each challenge you overcome alone becomes proof that you are capable. That proof builds confidence, and that confidence becomes unshakable. Strength is not just about pushing forward, it's about knowing you can survive whatever comes your way. Walking alone also sharpens your focus. Without the influence of others, you are less likely to be pulled in different directions. You begin to prioritize what truly matters instead of chasing what is popular or accepted. Your goals become clearer, your actions more intentional, and your time more valuable. There's no need to compare your journey to someone else's because you are fully immersed in your own. This level of focus allows you to move with precision. You waste less energy trying to fit in and invest more energy in building something meaningful. Strength in this sense is not just about endurance, it's about direction. And walking alone helps you find and protect that direction. Finally, walking alone teaches you self-trust, which is one of the most powerful forms of strength. When you consistently rely on yourself, make your own decisions, and navigate your own path, you begin to trust your instincts. You stop second-guessing every move and start believing in your ability to figure things out. That trust doesn't come overnight. It is built through experience, through mistakes, through perseverance. But once it's there, it changes everything. You no longer need constant reassurance or approval. You move with confidence, knowing that even if things go wrong, you have the ability to handle it. Walking alone doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you certain of your strength. Silence is strategic in a world that constantly pressures you to speak, post, explain, and prove yourself. Most people feel the need to announce their plans, share every step, and seek validation before they've even begun. But there is a different kind of power in holding back, in moving quietly, and in keeping your intentions to yourself. When you choose silence, you remove unnecessary noise from your journey. You protect your focus from outside opinions, doubts, and distractions. Instead of spending energy explaining what you're going to do, you invest that energy into actually doing it. Silence becomes a shield, allowing you to operate without interference and without the pressure of constant judgment. Being silent doesn't mean you have nothing to say. It means you are choosing when and how to say it. There is a discipline in restraint, in not reacting to every comment or responding to every challenge. People will question your quietness. They might assume you're unsure, unprepared, or even incapable. But what they don't see is the work happening behind the scenes. Silence gives you space to think, to plan, and to execute without interruption. It allows you to observe more, listen carefully, and understand situations deeply before making a move. This kind of awareness is often lost in those who speak too quickly and too often. Strategic silence turns you into someone who moves with intention rather than impulse. Another advantage of silence is that it protects your vision from being diluted. Not everyone will understand your goals, and not everyone is meant to. When you share your plans too early, you invite opinions that can weaken your confidence or shift your direction. Doubt is contagious, especially when it comes from people who don't share your mindset. By staying silent, you give your ideas time to grow strong enough to withstand criticism. You allow your vision to mature without being constantly challenged or reshaped by others. This doesn't mean ignoring feedback forever, but it does mean choosing the right time and the right people to share it with. Silence ensures that your foundation is solid before the world gets a say. Silence also builds an aura of focus and control. When you're not constantly talking about your next move, people start to notice your actions instead. There's a certain respect that comes from someone who doesn't need to broadcast everything they do. It creates curiosity and attention without you having to ask for it. More importantly, it keeps you grounded. When you talk too much about your goals, it can create a false sense of accomplishment, as if speaking about success is the same as achieving it. Silence keeps you honest. It reminds you that results matter more than words, and that progress is measured by what you do, not what you say. There is also strength in not reacting. In moments of criticism, negativity, or doubt from others, silence can be more powerful than any response. Not every comment deserves your attention, and not every situation requires your voice. Reacting emotionally often leads to wasted energy and unnecessary conflict. But when you choose silence, you maintain control over your emotions and your direction. You show that you are not easily shaken or distracted. This level of composure is rare, and it sends a message without you having to say a single word. It tells the world that you are focused, disciplined, and unbothered by noise that doesn't serve your purpose. Ultimately, silence is not about hiding. It's about building. It's about creating something meaningful without the need for constant recognition. When you stay silent, you give your work the space to grow, your mind the clarity to think, and your actions the power to speak for themselves. Over time, your results begin to tell your story. And when that moment comes, when your success becomes visible, it carries far more weight than any words ever could. Because while others were busy talking, you were busy working. And that quiet, consistent effort becomes the loudest statement of all. Ignoring outside noise is not about pretending the world doesn't exist. It's about choosing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Every day, you are surrounded by opinions, expectations, comparisons, and constant commentary from people who may not even understand your path. If you listen to everything, you lose direction. Your mind becomes crowded with doubts that were never yours to begin with. Strength comes from filtering that noise from deciding that not every voice deserves a place in your thinking. When you learn to tune out distractions, you create space for your own voice to lead. And that voice, when trusted, becomes far more powerful than any external influence. One of the biggest challenges is that outside noise often sounds convincing. It comes from friends, family, social media, and society itself, telling you what success should look like, how fast you should move, and what choices you should make. If you're not careful, you start measuring your life against standards that don't align with who you are. You begin to question your pace, your progress, and even your purpose. Ignoring that noise requires confidence, but more importantly, it requires clarity. You have to know where you're going well enough that other people's opinions don't shake you. That clarity acts like a compass, keeping you steady even when the world tries to pull you in different directions. There's also a quiet strength in not reacting to everything you hear. Not every opinion needs a response, and not every criticism deserves your energy. When you engage with every negative voice, you give it power over your mindset. But when you choose to ignore it, you take that power back. This doesn't mean you become closed off or unwilling to learn. It means you become selective. You listen to what helps you grow and discard what holds you back. That level of control is what separates focused individuals from distracted ones. Ignoring outside noise is not about arrogance. It's about protecting your mental space so you can operate at your best. Comparison is one of the loudest forms of outside noise, and it can quietly destroy progress if you let it. Watching others succeed, move faster, or gain recognition can make you feel like you're falling behind. But every journey is different, and comparing yours to someone else's only creates unnecessary pressure. When you ignore that comparison, you start to appreciate your own pace. You realize that progress is not always visible, and that growth often happens in silence. Strength comes from staying committed to your path, even when it doesn't look like anyone else's. When you stop measuring yourself against others, you free yourself to become exactly who you're meant to be. Another important part of ignoring outside noise is trusting your decisions. There will always be people who doubt your choices, question your direction, or suggest a better way. If you constantly seek approval, you'll never move forward with confidence. But when you trust yourself, you don't need constant validation. You understand that mistakes are part of the process, and that learning comes from experience, not from playing it safe. Ignoring outside noise allows you to take risks, make decisions, and grow without being paralyzed by fear of judgment. That kind of independence builds a deeper, more lasting strength. Ultimately, ignoring outside noise is about staying locked in on what truly matters. It's about protecting your focus, your energy, and your vision from anything that doesn't serve your purpose. The world will always be loud, but you don't have to be part of that chaos. You can choose calm over confusion, direction over distraction, and purpose over pressure. When you master that ability, you move differently. You stop reacting to everything around you and start creating something meaningful within you. And that quiet, steady focus becomes your greatest advantage in a world that never stops talking. Focusing on purpose instead of attention is one of the hardest shifts to make in a world that rewards visibility over value. Everywhere you look, people are chasing recognition, posting, performing, and constantly seeking approval. It's easy to fall into that cycle, to believe that being seen is the same as being successful. But attention is temporary. It comes and goes, often without substance. Purpose, on the other hand, is lasting. It gives direction to your actions and meaning to your efforts. When you choose purpose over attention, you stop asking, "Who is watching me?" and start asking, "Why am I doing this?" That question changes everything. It grounds you in something deeper than applause. When your focus is on attention, your decisions become influenced by what will impress others rather than what will improve you. You start doing things for reactions, for likes, for approval. And in that process, you slowly lose connection with your true goals. But when you are driven by purpose, your actions become intentional. You don't need an audience to stay motivated because your reason is bigger than recognition. You wake up with a clear understanding of what you're working toward, and that clarity fuels consistency. Even when no one is paying attention, you continue to move forward because your purpose doesn't depend on validation. It depends on commitment. There's also a quiet discipline that comes with choosing purpose over attention. It means doing work that may never be seen, at least not immediately. It means putting in effort without expecting instant results or praise. That kind of discipline is difficult because it requires patience. You have to trust that what you're building will eventually speak for itself. Many people give up because they don't see immediate recognition, but those who stay focused on purpose understand that real success takes time. They are willing to invest in the long term, to build something meaningful rather than something momentary. And that patience becomes a powerful advantage. Another important aspect of purpose-driven focus is authenticity. When you're not chasing attention, you don't feel the need to pretend or perform. You can be real with yourself and with your journey. You're not trying to fit into trends or meet expectations that don't align with who you are. Instead, you're creating your own path based on what truly matters to you. That authenticity not only strengthens your character, but also makes your work more genuine and impactful. People may not notice it right away, but when they do, it resonates on a deeper level, because what is built with purpose carries a weight that attention alone can never achieve. Focusing on purpose also helps you stay steady during both success and failure. When attention is your goal, success can become addictive and failure can feel devastating. Your sense of worth becomes tied to how others respond to you. But when your focus is on purpose, your stability comes from within. Success becomes a byproduct, not the goal, and failure becomes a lesson, not a defeat. You remain grounded because your direction doesn't change based on external reactions. This kind of emotional balance allows you to keep moving forward without being thrown off course by temporary highs or lows. Ultimately, choosing purpose over attention is about building something that lasts. Attention may bring you into the spotlight for a moment, but purpose keeps you moving long after the spotlight fades. It gives your journey meaning, your work depth, and your progress direction. When you are driven by purpose, you don't need to constantly prove yourself to the world. Your results, your consistency, and your growth become the proof. And over time, that quiet dedication creates an impact far greater than anything attention alone could ever achieve. Discipline over distraction is a choice that has to be made every single day, often in the smallest moments when no one is watching. Distraction is easy. It's comfortable, entertaining, and always available. It pulls you away from effort and into convenience, offering quick satisfaction without long-term value. Discipline, on the other hand, demands consistency, focus, and sacrifice. It asks you to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. The difference between the two is not always obvious in the moment, but over time it becomes clear. One builds your future while the other quietly steals it. Choosing discipline means being aware of that difference and acting accordingly even when it's difficult. In a world filled with constant notifications, endless content, and unlimited ways to escape responsibility, staying disciplined requires intentional effort. You have to create boundaries for your time and energy. You have to decide that not everything deserves your attention. Every distraction you entertain takes you a step further away from your goals. It may seem harmless at first, a few minutes here, a quick break there, but those moments add up. They create patterns, and those patterns shape your life. Discipline is about breaking that cycle. It's about recognizing when you're being pulled off track and having the strength to return to what matters. That awareness is the first step, but the real strength comes from acting on it consistently. Discipline is not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. There will be days when you feel motivated and days when you don't. There will be moments when distractions seem more appealing than your responsibilities. But discipline means showing up anyway. It means doing the work regardless of your mood. When you rely only on motivation, your progress becomes unpredictable. But when you build discipline, your progress becomes steady. You no longer depend on how you feel. You depend on what you've committed to. That shift creates momentum, and that momentum carries you forward, even when things get tough. Another important part of discipline is learning to delay gratification. Distractions often offer immediate rewards, entertainment, comfort, or escape. Discipline, however, requires you to look beyond the present moment. It asks you to invest your time and effort now for a payoff that may come later. That's not always easy, especially when the results are not immediately visible. But those who master discipline understand that real success is built over time. They are willing to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term gain. This ability to delay gratification is what allows them to stay focused while others lose direction. Discipline also strengthens your self-control, which is essential for long-term growth. Every time you choose to stay focused instead of giving in to distraction, you reinforce your ability to control your actions. That control builds confidence because you begin to trust yourself. You know that you can rely on your own decisions, that you won't easily be pulled away from your path. This self-trust is powerful. It removes hesitation and replaces it with certainty. When you are disciplined, you don't constantly question whether you'll follow through. You already know you will. Over time, discipline becomes part of your identity. It's no longer something you force yourself to do, it's something you naturally embody. You start to see yourself as someone who finishes what they start, who stays focused, and who doesn't give in easily. That identity shapes your actions, and your actions shape your results. Distraction may still exist, but it no longer controls you. You become intentional with your time, protective of your energy, and committed to your goals. And in that commitment, you find a level of strength that sets you apart from those who are constantly pulled in different directions. Letting your results speak is a mindset that requires patience, restraint, and unwavering belief in your work. In a world where people constantly feel the need to prove themselves through words, there is something powerful about choosing to stay quiet and let outcomes do the talking. It means you are not chasing approval or trying to convince anyone of your worth. Instead, you are focused on building something real, something measurable, something undeniable. This approach shifts your energy away from explaining and toward executing. You stop announcing your plans and start delivering on them. And over time, that consistency creates a reputation that words alone could never achieve. When you rely on results instead of words, you remove the pressure of having to constantly justify yourself. You don't need to argue with doubters or respond to every opinion because your work becomes your answer. This doesn't happen overnight. In the beginning, it may feel like no one notices your effort. It may seem like others are getting attention while you are quietly putting in the work. But that is part of the process. Results take time to develop. And during that time, you have to trust what you are building. You have to believe that your effort will eventually show, even if it's not immediately visible. That belief keeps you grounded when recognition is absent. There is also a level of confidence that comes from knowing you don't need to talk about what you're doing. When you are secure in your progress, you don't feel the urge to constantly share or seek validation. You understand that real growth happens behind the scenes, away from the spotlight. This confidence is different from arrogance. It is quiet, steady, and rooted in action. It allows you to move without distraction, to stay focused on your goals without being pulled into unnecessary conversations. And as you continue to build, that confidence grows stronger because it is backed by real experience and real results. Letting results speak also creates a sense of credibility that cannot be faked. Words can be exaggerated, promises can be empty, but results are concrete. They show what you've done, not what you intend to do. When people see consistent outcomes, they begin to trust your ability without you having to say anything. This kind of credibility is earned over time through discipline and persistence. It becomes your reputation, something that follows you and speaks for you even when you're not present. And unlike attention gained through talk, this credibility is lasting because it is built on substance. Another important aspect of this mindset is learning to be comfortable with silence during the process. There will be moments when you achieve small wins, make progress, or overcome challenges, and no one is there to acknowledge it. You have to learn to appreciate those moments for yourself. You have to find satisfaction in the work, not in the recognition. This internal validation is crucial because it keeps you motivated without relying on external praise. It allows you to continue moving forward even when the journey feels unnoticed. And over time, those small, quiet victories add up to something significant. Ultimately, letting your results speak is about trusting the process and committing to it fully. It's about understanding that true success does not need constant advertisement. When the work is real and the effort is consistent, the outcome will eventually become visible. And when it does, it carries a weight that no amount of talking could ever match. People don't just hear about your success. They see it, they recognize it, and they respect it. Because while others were focused on being heard, you were focused on becoming something worth noticing. And when it's all said and done, you won't need to explain your journey, because the nights you stayed disciplined will show. The silence you kept will echo. The path you walked alone will be visible in every step you take forward. You won't have to remind anyone what you went through. They'll see it in your strength. They'll hear it in your presence. They'll feel it in your results. So keep walking. Keep building. Keep staying silent when it matters. Because in the end, it's not the loudest voice that wins. It's the one who never stopped moving, even when no one was watching.